call it the personal atmospheric dome, or the pad. And here's the thing I think people miss is that this is not a theory. It's not an idea. It's the truth. It's a fact. And you can figure that out on your own by just simply knowing that if you look up, that's the least amount of atmosphere that there is right above you, straight above your head. So if any light is coming directly down from straight above you, that has the least amount of refraction. It has the least amount of effects. Those rays are going to come at you parallel if the sun's right above you. And then if you look to your left or right, or straight ahead of you or behind you, that is the most amount of atmosphere. So right away you can tell if the least amount of atmosphere is above you and the most is to your sides. That creates a personal atmospheric dome. We all see through it. No matter where you're at on the Earth, no matter North Pole, South Pole, wherever you might be, you exist inside of a personal atmospheric dome where everything renders to you. So nothing can just appear in the sky. It all has to come from far away. So that's why we see things come up from the horizon line, right? And so this is a dome. We see as a dome. And if you think of the sky being a plane above you, so a plane of stars above you, as things get further, since you're looking through more and more atmospheric distortion to see them, things appear to bend down towards the horizon line. And so that's the personal atmospheric dome. And when you understand that, then you realize that no matter where you're at on Earth, you see the sun rise to the east of your personal atmospheric dome and set in the west. And so people get very tripped up and they say, well, what about in the south? Isn't it the opposite? Where it's just, no, they are looking north. And so things rise on their right and set on their left, whereas us in the north, we look south and things rise on our left and set on our right. So it is a personal atmospheric dome. And then you have to learn to understand that. So many people get caught up in the idea of here's the fooling part. You live in a personal atmospheric dome. That's what you live in. That's what you see things through. They convince the world that there is another personal atmospheric dome below you with somebody living upside down inside it. And that's the biggest, fooling point of the entire thing is that, no, you exist in your personal atmospheric dome. That's how you see things. When you watch a plane fly off into the distance, it doesn't just fly straight up and then disappear into the clouds. It goes down towards the horizon. That's the way everything works, just like the sun sets, just like the moon sets, just like the sun rises, just like the moon rises, just like a plane coming over the horizon, as you might term that, but just means it's coming from far away. I can't see planes from where I live leaving the San Francisco airport. It's too far. But as things get closer to me, I would see them appear not out of the middle of the sky, but from the horizon line, because it's finally rendering itself to me. It's big enough to come into my personal atmospheric dome. And that's the way the entire world works around you. It's hard to explain, I guess, the personal atmospheric dome for people to get, but one visual that I thought was really good is if you picture a really foggy day, so it's extremely foggy, and you're at a train station and you're reading the train schedule, and you would only be able to see, let's say, you can only see your own train schedule. You're looking at it, and if you look any further, it's too foggy to see. So, but if you think about there being 10 other people at this train station at the same time, and everybody's looking at their own little document, well, they can read their own little train schedule, but to all of them, they can't see the other people around them. That's how the Earth works. That's how our atmosphere works. Same thing when two people on flat Earth are standing near each other, maybe 4 or 5 miles away, but to each other, the horizon ends before you can see the other person.
I don't know if you guys have seen this. Shout out to Flat Earth Awakening. And believe it or not, to Walter Bislin. I'm sure you guys know who he is. If you don't, well, you'll probably catch him in your comments section at some point. But I want to play this video. It's 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Actually, it's mostly music, so I'm just going to mute it. There's only one part that has any audio. But what this is this is taken from Walter Bislin's Flat Earth Modeling app. And what it does is it shows the personal atmospheric dome and how it works. Now, I have to remind you guys that Walter Bislin is a ball earther, right? He is absolutely not a flat earther. He thinks it's silly. He's battled, in several comment sections. He battles Flat Earth FE Core. He's just really a baller. And what's amazing is he has come out with this app, and it shows precisely what we have been talking about this personal atmospheric dome, right? And this is, very similar to P-Brain's graphics, but it shows the sun and the moon rotating above a flat Earth, and with our personal atmospheric dome, how it actually is perceived by us. And it's really quite an amazing app, and you can actually go there and play with it on his webpage. But I just want to let this run a little bit so you can see actually what's happening here. You can see the continents and how, or I'm sorry, you can see the stars and how that you're perceiving them. If you move latitude, anywhere in the latitude, you can see, of course, that personal atmospheric dome then starts turning on its side. Until you get to the equator, then it's pretty much equal. And that is, of course, when we've seen all of that star trail footage that splits off in two different directions at the equator. And then if you continue further south, the personal atmospheric dome kind of starts tilting back up at an angle. So the one thing about this also that I want to point out is not only does this back up 100% what, you know, Jaron has talked about and a lot of flat earthers, but it also backs up 100% exactly the idea of how an EQ mount on a telescope can work. Just like we said before, when you are dealing with optics and we have a personal atmospheric dome, and it doesn't matter if we're looking at it with our eyes or a camera is looking at it, if you set up a telescope and calibrate it to either the South Pole, you know, South Celestial Point, which is not a star, or North Pole or Polaris, calibrate it, and then you follow any of these grid lines around, it follows and tracks absolutely perfectly on a flat Earth. And in fact, beyond that, if you really start thinking this through, and this is the one thing that the ballers never, ever, ever want to take into consideration in their models, is how you see how our perspective actually works. They're always trying to use these orthographic type views, you know, side-on views, and do all their math and geometry from that. Well, great, and it works that way, but unfortunately, we don't see the world that way, right? And neither do telescopes, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So what this not only proves is that the telescopes, the EQ mount telescopes can work and do work on a flat Earth. But if you think about it, if that same personal atmospheric dome is then applied to a ball Earth, then the EQ telescope will not work at all. Okay, think about that for a while, guys, because you've got basically a double whammy there. You're going down the latitude of the globe, which is what they say the scope is tracking. However, at that point, they are assuming absolutely no personal atmospheric dome. And if you were to factor that in, it wouldn't work at all, plain and simple. So, you know, at this point, I think I'm almost obligated to ask the ballers to prove to us using atmospheric and our perspective in a personal atmospheric dome how an EQ mount telescope could possibly work on a globe.